All right, and we are going to take a look at our next lesson. All right, and so you can see from our title here that we're going to continue working with linear function pattern recognition. So this is Unit 1, Lesson 3. All right, and once again, we're going to look at those same two topics that we looked at in our last lesson, right? I can identify a linear function from a table of values, and I can identify the rate of change for a linear function from a table of values as well. All right, so just like last time, we have our opener here. So once again, I'm going to have you pause the video, complete the opener, flip it back on, and we'll discuss it and see how you did. All right, so let's go through this. So very similar type of problem that we looked at previously, right? New cell phone contract, a different initial fee this time. We're still asking the same question, like what is my monthly payment? Now here's what we see in this table that's different from last time. So when I look at my change in the total amount spent, I can see I go up 90 and for my first rate of change in Y. And then I go up 90 again, and then 90 again, and then 90, 90, and 90. All right, so very similar. But when we jump over here now and we analyze our X column, which represents the number of months, our months do not go up by one now. Now what we see here is a pattern that I have every other month. So maybe I'm being billed bi-monthly, which some bills do. My water bill comes bi-monthly. So I don't pay for a single month. It's 2 months. All right. And so I can see that it's going up by 2. So now notice the question here. How much have you paid each month? All right. Now, my rate of change, remember, is the change in Y, right? So change in Y to the change in X, right? That's our rate of change, ROC. And when we look at that, my rate of change is 90 to 2. And that repeats over and over, right? It's constant. All right, that's constant. So when I see that, I'm going to jump to question 3 here. We know it's linear. And the reason we know it's linear is because it's a constant rate of change. All right. Now, this gets into some vocabulary that we talked about last time, and you didn't see the difference last time because all of our rates of change in the previous lesson were exactly the same as our unit rate. Now, notice this is not my unit rate because it's 90 to 2. So this is $90 for 2 months. And what I want, right? So $90 to 2 months. But what I want to know is how much do I pay for each month? I want that unit rate per 1 month. And so this is the difference between a rate of change and a unit rate of change. So if I reduce 90 over 2, that reduces to $45 per 1 month. And that's my unit rate. All right, so my rate of change was 90 to 2, and it was constant. But my unit rate, if I want to know what I paid for each month, it's $45 per 1 month. And so how do I know? All right, I have to reduce, all right, after I look at my rate of change, I have to reduce it to get to that 1 month. All right, so then if you go down here, all right, and once again, any questions, anything in the opener that you didn't understand, star it, highlight it, and those are the questions you should be bringing into class. All right, now if we drop down here to the bottom of the page, so once again, same types of, all right, vocabulary as last time. So initial value, right? So that was when we said X is 0. That's our starting point or starting value, right? And we can see that in this particular problem, this time my initial fee was $300, right? I had to put $300 down, all right, so I could walk out with my new cell phone. All right, very typical kind of thing, right? So rate of change. Once again, we're looking at the change in Y to the change in X. All right, and our constant rate of change. Okay, so constant rate of change means that ratio, right? That, oh, I said ratio, all right, which is our change in Y to the change in X is the same every time. And we saw that above, right? 90 to 2, 90 to 2. And then once again, unit rate, right, is when we take our change in Y to our change in X, right, and we reduce to get our change in Y per 1 change in X. all right, just like we saw before. So we had 90 to 2, we reduced that to 45 to 1. All right, so now hopefully you're getting used to some of the vocabulary, some of the terms, all right, and you can start using those in your descriptions, in your questions. You know, what is the difference between rate of change and a unit rate, right? What does it mean to be a constant rate of change, right? So part of this is helping you build the vocabulary, right, to not only understand what we're doing, but then also to help you communicate to us when you do need help. All right, so now let's go ahead and flip the page and let's look at, once again, at some of those whole class problems. All right, so let's look at problem 1 here. So once again, we're asking the same 3 questions that we asked in our prior lesson. What's the rate of change? What's the unit rate? And then do we know what type of function, all right, from that rate of change? All right, so once again, we're going to analyze the right side of the table, which is our change in y, and then we're going to analyze the left side of our table, which is our change in x. All right, so if I go down the right side here, so notice I go up 10 for my first change in y, and then I go up 10 again, and then what you see, all right, is that each change in y, I'm going up 10. All right, all the way down that right side, right, I'm going up by 10 every time, right? So my change in y is plus 10, plus 10, plus 10, plus 10, plus 10. Now let's flip over and look at the left side here, and let's look at how x is changing. And hopefully you see a pattern here. And that's really all math is. It's just looking and finding patterns and then making sense of those patterns and drawing conclusions from those patterns. And hopefully you see that everything on the left side in our change of x, all of our change of x's, all right, are increasing and going up by 2 as well. And what I see is I see a constant rate of change, 10 to 2, 10 to 2, 10 to 2, all the way down. So there's my rate of change, right? So it's 10 to 2. And because it's a constant rate of change, we should hopefully know that it is a linear function. Now, this is where this lesson differs from the prior one. So here's my rate of change is 10 to 2, but that's not my unit rate of change. My unit rate of change is when my change of x, I went for per 1x, per 1 month, per 1 day, whatever that happens to be. And so we just have to use what we know about reducing fractions. So I can divide 10 and 2 by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And so my unit rate of change is 5 to 1. And what that's going to eventually happen, all right, and help us with is eventually we're going to say, hey, what might the value be when it's 3, right? What's the value when it's 15? And so notice to do that, I have to know my unit rate of change. So we're kind of building this idea about unit rate, all right, and then we're going to apply it to some situations, all right, in some of our future work. All right, so now let's move on to problem 2. All right, and let's look at what's the behavior here. So once again, we're going to start on the right side in that change in y. Notice this time I'm going from 14 to 5. So notice I went down 9 to start my change in y. 5 to negative 14, I go down 9 again. Negative 4 to negative 13, I go down 9. All right, and then notice what keeps happening here. Down 9 again, down 9 again, down 9 again. And I keep that pattern, all right, all the way down the right side. I go down by 9 every time. Now, once again, let's jump over to the left side. Let's look at how our x's are changing. And so notice here, my x goes from negative 2 to 1, so I go up 3. 1 to 4, I go up 3. 4 to 7, I go up 3. 7 to 10, go up 3. And then you can see that if I look at those numbers on the left side there, that does continue the pattern. Now, once again, okay, do the little things. I should see these written out on your paper, right? Okay, and it seems like overkill now because it seems very obvious, but remember, eventually we're going to get to lots of different problems and things are going to be mixed up. You're going to have all 4 types of problems and you're going to have different things to look at. All right, so getting good habits now that would lead to more success when we start feeling more challenging or facing more challenging and more difficult problems. Now, once again, if we look, my rate of change every time is negative 9 to 3. All right, so that's my rate of change. And once again, it's a constant rate of change, and that means it's a linear function. And then once again, to get to my unit rate of change, I have to get to the denominator of 1 here. So I need to reduce this fraction. So I'm going to divide, all right, the top and the bottom, the numerator and the denominator by 3, and I get negative 3 to 1. All right, and so once again, the reason we need this is eventually we're going to ask you a question like, oh, well, if 1 I'm at 5 and 4 I'm at negative 4, What's the value when it's 2? What's the value when it's 3? Okay, so we're building to that type of question. All right, one more problem together here before we wrap up this video, and let's look at our change in y, all right, here on the right side. So negative 34 to negative 9, okay? I went up 25, all right, went up 25. So remember, if you become less negative, you're going up, right? Because you'd rather owe me $9 than owe me $34. So, all right, you're going up. Negative 9 to 16, we go up 25 again. 16 to 41, we go up 25. 41 to 66, we go up 25. And we go up 25 again. And then we go up 25 and then up 25. All right. Now let's jump over to the left side here. See how our x's are changing. Our first change in x, once again, I'm going from negative 8 to negative 3. All right. So if I'm becoming less negative, I'm moving up. Okay. And you can think about it like you have to pay me $5, right, to owe me negative $3. And then negative 3 to 2, right? I go up 5 again. 2 to 7, 7 to 12, 12 to 17, 17 to 22, and then 22 to 27. So we can see that same change in x over there. So once again, I see 25 to 5 every time. So that's my rate of change. It is constant, all right, which tells me it is linear. All right, and then my last thing is what's my unit rate? And then once again, let's just reduce 25 to 5, and I get 5 to 1. All right, so that wraps up our video for today. All right, so make sure you have that all wrapped up. Any questions you have those ready to go, and I will see you in class.